Okay, so welcome to the Ultra Running Sam podcast. I just realised that my sound is quite low. I'll turn the volume up now. Okay, so some before this episode with Rich Gill, Gillyphotography, just some pre-episode admin stuff. So firstly, I just wanted to thank everybody who's been able to watch the Jasmine film. Really appreciate all the downloads, all the subscribing, all the comments and likes and everything. I really appreciate everybody jumping on board with that. So that's great. Jasmine tells me that her mum really likes it, so that's all the acknowledgement you need, isn't it? If her mum likes it, then we're okay. And episode 2 is on the way, so I'm not saying who it is yet. Well, I've got four, so I've got 4 episodes in total that are lined up. So we'll see which ones actually come to fruition. So it took a bit of getting going to get the Jasmine one. Obviously, I counted today. Actually, we realised I had 32 emails between us to try and sort it out. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to organise and to get sorted, but we'll get there. And I'm really enjoying the challenge of doing something a bit different. And I know from the feedback that you guys have given me, then I know that we're on to something here. I think it could be a good little series for us to do. Uh, what's next? Um, Everyone at Spine this weekend. So over the weekend, I did the Spine sprint. So for a change, it was the short version, 45 miles of rain. It actually felt like, rather than it being the summer spine, it actually felt like the winter spine. It's been a while since I ran in full waterproofs and gloves and everything in June. I say full waterproofs, waterproof jacket. I didn't have any waterproof socks on, waterproof trousers on. Got absolutely drenched, and it was freezing at times. There was fog. Didn't have any snow or hail, fortunately. But I think some later in the week, I think maybe we might be getting some bad weather, but who knows? I'm not bothered. I'm done. That was my short race and done. But thanks to everybody that said hello, particularly Alice Kershaw, I saw, and Max Driscoll. Then Chris up at Hebden, up at checkpoint 1, up there at the finish, having a chat with Chris, who looks after that checkpoint. So it's lovely that all the people that I met. It's amazing actually how many people that I spoke to on the race sort of got chatting, and somehow, and this isn't me turning the conversation towards the podcast or anything, but um, I'm amazed at how many people recognize my voice from the podcast. I didn't think that I had an exceptionally recognizable voice, but apparently I do. There's quite a few people that sort of were talking to me and looking at me funny, and then said, "Have you got a podcast?" And yeah, and that was the conversation. So yeah, that did wonders for my ego, but not much for my racing ability. So I managed to pull in 7th, so top 10. So I was happy with that. But it's actually the last time I did the race when I had the awful experience with the dandelion and burdock and the sick, which everyone knows about. I came 7th in that race, and I came 7th again this time, but I did knock about 20 minutes off. And considering the conditions underfoot, then I'm quite happy with that, to be honest. So my speed is slowly coming back. It's not quite what it was a few years ago, but after the old knee injury, it's coming back. So hopefully, maybe by the end of this year, I'll be back to my full racing form, but we'll see. Anyway, um, what was else was going to say? Hang on, I'm just gonna let him in, and then I'll tell him that I'm just carrying on with this little preamble bit. So with he's been waiting a while. Are you there, Rich? You there?
Hey,
Hey, you're right, mate.
yeah, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can hear you.
cool. I
Good.
don't know if you can pick up anything. I've got a little.
Oh, you got a mic on.
I don't know if it works anyway. Yeah, but first time I've used it.
Right.
Yeah, hang on. I haven't got the app. I just have to download the app.
Yeah, I don't think you'll need it. Just should be all right. Yeah. Do you want to turn it? Can you turn it
Yeah,
horizontal? Is that
should
all
be okay.
right?
Is
Oh,
that
that's
better for
better.
you?
Yeah, that's loads better. Like you've appeared full screen now. So,
Ah, good stuff.
um, I'll warn you. I am recording, and I'm halfway through. You've gone. Okay, this could be a sign of things to come. Well, it'll come back in a second. I'll carry on with what I was going to say, which was after chatting with so many people at the race and realizing actually how many thousands of people do actually listen to the podcast every week. When I am actually looking at the numbers now, I hadn't really looked at the numbers before, and I'm starting to look at numbers now, and I realise that there is quite a few people that are actually listening to the podcast, and not so much many watching the YouTube versions, which doesn't bother me. I'm not worried about that, but I'm happy that everybody's actually listening to the audio version. Um, so in view of that, what I've sort of decided is that I'm thinking about, and you can sort of shoot me down on this if you think it's a bad idea, or I'm open to suggestions, but I'm thinking that there seems to be a bit of a community of people that do listen. So, and do the thing that I didn't want to do, which was start a Facebook group. I did think about starting a Slack group, but that is quite specific. And talking to a few people, they've sort of said it was quite maybe the generation that that we are as ultra runners maybe doesn't get on board with the technology as quickly. So possibly a traditional Facebook group might work. So what I'm thinking of doing is he's come back. Here he is. He's back.
I'm not going to touch it.
There we go.
I'm not going to. Apologies.
Don't worry. I'm just halfway through just talking about something. So you're all right for 1 second.
Yeah, go for it.
You've waited long enough for this podcast, that you can wait another 30 seconds. Um, so what I decided, just ignore me, Rich, while I'm saying this. So because I've spoken to so many people at the races, and everyone's telling me that they're listening to the podcast, um, I've decided to actually go and actually start up a Facebook group, and it's what I didn't really want to do, but I think it'll probably help with organising things like letting people have early access to the episodes when I'm doing future episodes of Home Trails, the documentary series that seems to be taking off. People can have early access to those films way before everybody else gets it on general release, and possibility of bringing the old social runs back. So in lockdown, a few of you know that I set up like a bit of a social running group, what was it called? FSTR, free social trail running group, early in lockdown, and we had quite a few social runs in the Peak District over lockdown, and then it kind of died a death because races kind of came back. We started, but so there's a possibility we might start doing that. So if people that listen to the podcast and live, in the area, which I've looked at the numbers and I've realised there's a large number of people in the Midlands that listen mostly, like in the Peak District and around. So obviously people that are probably connected with the Spine race and stuff. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have a Facebook group. People can give feedback on episodes. They can suggest guests for the podcast, and if there's any news that's worthy of being talked about, then they can suggest it there on the show. So that was supposed to be my 30-second preamble into this episode, Rich, and it's lasted for about 5 minutes.
Easily done. Easily done.
Yeah.
Sounds
Sorry,
good.
mate.
Sounds good what you're doing.
Sorry to keep you waiting, and like I sort of alluded to before this, I often say on the podcast, with scheduling issues and trying to get get this episode scheduled, but this one has been a nightmare, hasn't it? Because you're a very busy man, aren't you? And I always seem to be busy when you're not busy. So
Yeah, I guess that's it. It just means that we seem to be passing ships, as they say in the night, and but yeah, great to be here and good to be on the show. And thanks for having me.
yeah, cheers, mate. Appreciate you coming on. Yeah, we We have been trying to get this going for a while, and like you say, it made me laugh. You said that we keep it in the woodwork with her organising this
Yeah,
podcast.
literally, yeah, keep it in the woodwork. Yeah.
Definitely, but we are here and we're ready. So the official intro is welcome to the Ultra Running Sam podcast, Richard Gill. It is Richard, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, because because I see like you go by like Gilly, and so what
Sounds
what
like
what do you prefer?
sounds like my mother's telling me off when I hear Richard.
Well, I get this. I have the same feelings about Samuel, but as I've got older, I've kind of started to say my name is, give my full name now. I don't know why. Maybe I don't feel like I feel like as I'm getting older, maybe I suit Samuel more. But also the fact that there's also another Sam Hill out there in the trail running media
Yeah,
who does photography. So I don't want to get confused with him. Although I don't think he has a podcast. I don't know.
don't think he does, but yeah, I know Sam pretty well.
Do
But
you?
yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah, small world, but
Yeah,
there we
yeah.
go.
There's room for two Sam Hills in the trail running world. There's a Sam Hill mountain biker as well, isn't there? Downhill mountain biker.
Okay.
So there's a few of us out there. Yeah, but
You,
I'm number one tonight.
and by the way, you can call me what you want. I'll know. Call me what you want. I get called a lot of things at school, so it's it won't be as bad as that. But there we
Was
go.
was Gilly your was that your moniker at school? Was it Gilly?
That's it. Yeah, playing football for so many years. The nickname Gilly, just easy. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I kind of used as my sort of name in the photography world, I guess. Um, a lot of friends call me Gilly anyway, and yeah, there we go. So it's kind of stuck.
Yeah, awesome. So we've crossed paths, haven't we, over the years, like with different
Yeah.
things. So the first time I actually physically met you, I don't know whether you'd actually remember this. So it made me laugh today, and it brought back some memories. So you put a post on about peaks south and north, didn't you, about that race? And
Yeah.
did you remember I came up and talked to you before that race at the start of
That's
the
why I
race?
put, that's one of the reasons why it rejigged my memory. And I thought, God, yeah, I'm finally meeting up with Sam tonight. And that was a pretty poignant day for me. A couple of years, about 3 years ago. And that was my first ultra. And I remember, yes, meeting you at the end. You were having a cup of tea and tucking into your food. You'd finished quite a bit before me, but yeah, I do remember it pretty well, and that was the first time we met.
I
On
think
the
I
White Peaks Ultra, yeah,
that it was Ranger Ultras,
yes,
Peaks South and North, and you did the South race, didn't you, on the Saturday?
single day. Yeah, I did the
Yeah.
single race. Yeah,
Single day. Yeah, that was it. Because I think I'd sort of I'd trained really well for that race, and I'd got my eye set on the podium for it back in the days where I could podium in races 3 years ago. And I was I was checking out the competition, wandering around and having a look to see who was there that looked like they knew what they were doing. And you were one of the ones that I thought you looked like you knew what you were doing. And I didn't know it was your first ultra.
I was pretty naive back then and excited, but I didn't. Yeah, it was
You
my
did all
first.
right.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I did surprise myself. Um, but it again, it's all about, you can look at results and where people come in races, but it all depends on a lot of parameters, doesn't it? Who turns up, how you feel, and I remember it being a linear route, and getting the coach over from Edale to the start line. I forgot where we started, but it was, yeah,
That's
pretty
fun.
nerve-wracking, and I was, yeah. But then just off we went, and it wasn't too technical. It was pretty simple trails. It wasn't actually that much elevation, but yeah, it was a nice memory. That
Yeah, yeah, it was good. Yeah, I remember looking around at a few people, and I noticed that you got. I think what I said to you was, I asked you whether you got any cheat shoes on, because you got some Nike trail shoes on, and they
yeah,
look like they were like they look like the carbon like alpha whatever they are, the Alpha Flyers or something. And I jokingly like said to you, are they cheat shoes? Like realizing now, looking back, that probably seemed like quite a confrontational thing to say to somebody at the start of a race. But that's the banter that I'd sort of been having with a few of my mates on a running chat that I got. And if anyone had got any carbon shoes, we all like abused
Yeah.
each other, saying that they were cheat shoes.
Yeah.
So I'd said that I'd gone around looking at people's shoes, and I saw yours, and I was like, "Oh, are they cheat shoes?" And probably in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have said that to a complete stranger.
You know what? The funny thing is about those shoes, Sam, I got them second hand off Vinted, right?
Yeah,
Uh, and they're now in the PE spare PE kit at school for the kids. So they've done the rounds, haven't they?
yeah.
So yeah, yeah, they are still in the school spare PE kit locker. So there we go.
Good. They are getting some use. That's good. Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so my traditional question, which I've sort of bypassed already, is I'll go back to it. So I obviously start every episode with the superhero question. So if you were being an ultra running photography superhero, what is your origin story? What's your backstory? How did you get to where you are now in trail running, ultra running, and photography? Sort of give us your sort of go back in time, give us as much detail, as little detail as you want, go back as
Yeah.
far as you like, and give us the rundown to where you are today.
Okay, well, I'll try and keep it pretty short, but I'm early 40s now, PE teacher, loved sport and been enthralled in sport throughout my life. Was lucky to grow up in the edge of the Peak Districts, friends close by, middle of three brothers, super competitive, and yeah, I my first sport, my first love was football, and I hung up the boots 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, stopped playing. Two clubs, two or three clubs, Saturdays, Sundays, and loved it. But then it got to a point where I just wasn't really enjoying it anymore. You know, chasing 21-year-old blokes around who were just so far quicker than me, and I just needed something else. But alongside football, you know, I thank my parents for this. Um, Instead of not wanting their kids to hang around on street corners in an old steel town of Stocksbridge, you might know it. She made sure that we were occupied by through sport. So yes, the local football club, and also the local swimming club as well. So my two other brothers, my oldest brother, my youngest brother, they were very good swimmers in their own right, and they trained 5, 6 times a week in the pool for 10 years. Um, Very good local club. So that taught us a lot of discipline. And I also did it for fitness, for football, because I dreamt of being a footballer. But that discipline and that training, 4 or 5 nights a week for me in the pool really give me a good engine, a good, good respect for training, understanding, what hard work is right from the age of being about 10 onwards. And then I stopped swimming at about 18, still carried on, and then got serious with football. Never made it to a standard that I dreamt of, but I still loved playing. And then you could say that I've been at it from day one. So when people say, "Oh, how long you been running?" Well, I've been running a long time through various different avenues, different ways, but never long distance running. And then I sort of thought, what can I start? How can I turn this passion of sport that I've had into the next step, the next chapter? And lockdown is a familiar period for where a lot of runners, started their journey, I guess, if you want to call it, or discovered something new. And I really, really thought lockdown was brilliant. I was a teacher that was, look, thankfully, still getting paid, but we're doing a bit of work online, etc. But we were giving time that we can never get back. That time that we got in lockdown was just amazing. So yeah, developed a lot of skills there through photography, but also did a lot of hiking, and then that turned into running. And yeah, and the love just started, and then continued doing that. Hung up the boots, and I've just been fascinated by running ever since. And I know that it's got longevity in it, and
Mm.
I get a lot of joy from it. Yes, I'm competitive still with myself, but I get a hell of a lot of joy, and the community is amazing. And I guess that's where we are today.
Mm. So how did you sort of get into trail running and ultras specifically then? If you sort of, if you know, obviously you got a bit of and you were sort of an outdoorsy upbringing then.
Yeah, I guess so. Living in the outdoor world, sorry, in the edge of the Peak District, it was, right on farmland. Worked on a farm as a kid. Forever playing out. I wasn't interested in computer games, and yeah, I guess just out the adventure side was something that I loved. I did a hell of a lot of hiking, bit boring, but a hell of a lot of hiking before running, and that gave me the legs, I guess. And then again that turned into sort of the running. There's a little story as well, which I guess also I should give you here, which gave me a massive sort of step into running, and that was we went on a school trip to South Africa just before lockdown, 6 months before lockdown, and we did a lot of work in the local communities there. Uh, with some of our students and a few colleagues. It was such an eye-opener, amazing experience. Fast forward to lockdown, and the guys who ran that trip from a tour company and also the people in South Africa got in touch with saying, lockdown's hitting us massively. We can't afford to feed the kids. The school's shut, and that's where they get their daily nutrition from. Can you do anything as teachers and staff at the school to raise some money? And that's what we did in the month of month of May of lockdown. March was the start, wasn't it? And as a collective, families, friends, and colleagues, we wanted to cover the distance. I think was it 8,000 miles to South Africa from our school to their school. And we did it. We did it, and every day we were logging how far we were walking, and then those walks turned to runs, and then you start setting goals, and then you start saying, "Hang on, I can go a bit further and do a bit more," and that going back to the story of endurance, swimming, and then power through strength through football, and the love of sport. I found it pretty good to be on the trails, and it was exciting. It wasn't I didn't want to then tailor it to 5K, 10K, half marathon. I've still not done a road marathon. Times don't. I'm not governed by that. Just being, on the trails. So
Mm. Yeah, amazing. So, yeah, there's a lot of like really good ultra runners that came from like a hiking background. So you often think of people taking like more of a traditional route into running, of started by doing like park run and 5Ks and 10Ks and stuff, and working up to like half marathons and a road marathon, then they have a go at doing like a trail run and doing stuff like that. But if you've already got the legs for hiking, you've got that strong, you've already built up that engine from swimming and football, then it's an ideal jump into it, going to trail running and ultra. So I'm not surprised that you. So what in that first race then? What were you, like fourth or fifth or something?
I think I was fourth overall and
Yeah,
first on the single.
first out of the single dayers. Yeah,
But
yeah. So,
it was. I came into it thinking, whoa, I'm doing pretty well on my first ultra, and look what I've done here. And actually, the reality is, I've not podiumed really much since or before. But that's not the point. The point was, I'm okay at this. I enjoy it, and then it's working out what the distance is going on from that I then find comfortable and I want to really focus on. And I've since learned that it's hard to know, isn't it? And you'll know it's hard to know exactly where your the niche sort of distance is. But I think I'm anything up to 50K. I think that's what suits me. I've done a couple longer and did pretty well. But yes, but there's time to still do that. And I'm excited and I'm interested in doing it for sure. but yeah, no, it's just still very still new, and I'm still learning so much,
Yeah.
and learning off other people, and and like people like you and your podcast, brilliant for that. And I've been listening to it a lot, and you get some great people and some great backstories, and it's just fascinating. It is absolutely fascinating, and especially knowing what you're capable of and what you can actually do.
Yeah.
So no, it's really interesting.
I think, and as well, I know you sort of said that you're in your early 40s.
Yeah,
And it really, like, this is like the prime. You're in your I'm in my mid 40s now, so
yeah.
I'm just probably not in. I won't say that I was in my prime of life anymore, but in your early 40s, like, you've had all those years of building up that sort of endurance in different sports. You've come into running, like, you're absolutely prime now for pushing distance and stuff like that. If that is what you want to do, and like you say, finding your niche. And I think you've got to go through all of the distances and all the different types of races to try and figure out what you're good at. And I still feel like I'm not really sure where I know the most success I've had is between 50k and 50 miles. That's the most success I've had. Um, but I'm still drawn to the long stuff, like doing doing the spine, doing all the races that sort of led up to that and everything, trying to figure out whether I was any good at doing the really long stuff. And I
Mhm.
figured that I can do it, but it's not particularly my niche. I think my niche is the shorter, faster stuff. So, but then I'll probably do that and get back to the point where I can sort of be competitive again, and hopefully that's my goal for this year into next year. But then I'll probably end up thinking after that, like, is that what I want to do? Do I want to do that? Do I want to do something else? And I think that's the beauty of trail running and ultra running, is that there's so many different types of races out there in different distances that
Yeah.
you why specialize in one thing when you can sort of have a piece of a larger cake.
100%. And it's adventuring, isn't it? It's adventure running. Yes, it's nice to call it a race as well and be competitive and push yourself to your limits, but it's an adventure, isn't it? And whether it's over a morning, a full day, a couple of days, where it's multi-stage, where you have to sleep over and you have to work on your rest and recovery, or you go through the night. It's fascinating, and I think you're right. I think you've nailed it there. I think you should, if you've got the ability and you've got the mind for it, at least give everything a go. However, I don't think people should just give things a go for crunching big numbers just to show, "Oh, look what I can do." I think it should be done in a measured way, and I think it should be done in a respectful way to the distances, the runners who are good at it, but also the racers as well. But that's just my opinion. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, so how did you, just changing subject slightly, how did you then go from turning your love of trail running into a passion for trail running photography? How did that all start? What was that sort of backstory? I know you've sort of said how you got into running and you were
yeah.
teaching and everything, but you're like very prolific on social media with your photography.
Yeah.
What sort of began is how did that begin? Is it something that's gone back a long way?
So, art, I see photography as art and capturing sort of images that create a narrative, a story in whatever subject area that you're capturing. I see all photographers as sort of artists in a way. And my favorite subjects at school was PE and art. Um, and I loved drawing and painting and playing music, and very that side of my brain's pretty good. The logic side of the brain's not. Terrible at maths, etc. But I found comfort in that. Found that I really enjoyed that area, and then I went traveling for 6 months, 2014, and I bought a camera, a bridge camera, and I was fascinated in just taking images of animals and the wildlife. Um, and then I still loved taking photos casually of people, nothing specifically, but just still was fascinated with photography following on from that period. And then go back to lockdown, it's like a level up for me. I had this. We all had a bit of, again. There's a lot of people struggled in lockdown because they weren't getting paid, but I was getting paid, and I had this spare cash, and I thought, right, I need to learn something, I need to improve on something, I need to use it, because this time again we've been given this time. So I spent some money on some DSLR cameras and some lenses, and I learned the craft, and I learned and took photos and continued to practice. And it was mainly landscapes and on my hikes in lockdown. And it was mainly little journals of lockdown stories of me going out when you shouldn't be, things like that. And, just being outdoors. And then, yeah, I was just chucking lots of photos on Facebook and things like that, and Instagram, and then I remember, and I thank it to this day, a lady called Donna. She said, she was a professional photographer. She said, "Rich, you've got a natural eye. You got a natural eye," and that was a kind thing to say. And she said, "There's a party coming up that I can't do, and they're willing to pay 100 quid to go and shoot this 50th party in a house. The guy is one of my friends, he's 50, and I just don't want to do it. I don't like the pressure, and I don't want to get involved in it anymore. Would you mind going and doing it?" And I went, "Yeah, no problem." And I took my camera, quite confident, a bit overconfident, but also a little bit like, hang on, this is pressure now. And then I went into this house, and I made that many mistakes. They didn't know it, but I made that many mistakes, and I was put under that much pressure by myself. Like, oh my god, it's dark in here. How do you expose it to the lights? It's lighter, and they want me to do a stage photo of this woman dropping the cake before he comes out and making it look like they've accidentally done it, but actually was part of the plan. And I missed every shot. But I got a couple, and I learned so much from that. And I thank Donna for that, because she just chucked me into the lion's den, and I got £100. And in do it to intentionally go into photography to earn money. It wasn't an intention, it was just a hobby and a love affair. I'm a teacher full time. And then from there, I've just done more and more stuff, family shoots, pets. And then I've gone on to do the odd wedding for a friend as a favour. And then weddings are the worst, because you
Yeah.
just walk down the aisle again. I miss that. You can't do that. So I think there's a hell of a lot of amazing photographers who I respect and I look up to, but a lot don't touch weddings. So being under pressure for that, and I still do weddings now, and then that transpired to, hang on, I love bloody running. I love gear, running gear, and the brand, our brands are involved in running, the community side. And then I started running some trail pursuit run clubs, and I said, I'll take my camera with me, and got some shots, and I just developed it from there. And I'm very grateful that I've been given, I've been asked to do quite a few jobs since, for brands, running companies, athletes, individuals, working for PR companies, and yeah, it's turned into a pretty busy diary now, and so much so that I went down to 4 days a week at school 18 months ago, and so much so now that I'm actually pushing it more than ever, and I'm handing my notice in at the school. Yeah, and I'm going to go and live. I'm actually leaving Sheffield. I'm going to live on Anglesey Island, North Wales, in September. Yeah, and then from there, I'm just going to push the photography and do some supply if I need to. So yeah, I'm mixing it up, changing it around, and really pushing it, but enjoying it, and not forgetting, that it's. I love it, and I don't want it to rule, the bank balance sort of thing and pay bills, but also I'm going to give it a go while the iron is sort of hot.
That's amazing. It's funny how you said about doing weddings. I had a flashback then. So my wife is now she's a hairdresser, but her first was it her first job, I suppose. No, she's had many jobs that she's quite proud of. She's got a massive list of jobs that she got fired from that she she, she loves telling the stories. But I'll tell you one, because this is off subject and she'll never hear this. So she got fired from a job. She was doing an admin job. And there was like her boss, she hated her boss, and her boss was horrible to her and stuff. And her boss used to always buy every Friday, used to buy like these cream donuts, and and so my wife Kate, she got one of the cream donuts on the Friday, and I think she hid it inside. I don't know how she did this. Hid it in the printer somehow, printer or the scanner, something like that. She did something anyway, and then she found it and obviously had a massive go at her and fired her. But I don't know why I'm telling this story. It just came into my head, so I just thought I'd tell it. But she was always creative. She went to college and did art and photography. Absolutely loved photography. Granddad was a photographer, and he did all like black and white stuff. So she was really into photography, and she got a little bit of an inheritance. So with the money, she like brought a load of photography equipment, and she just a friend like you say, like this is how you get into it. Someone will just say, "Can you do? Would you mind doing this? Taking photos of this party? Would you mind?" And I think it was like a friend said, "Could you take photos of our wedding?" They'd got like a small budget, and Kate was just like, "Yeah, go on, I'll do it for free just to get the experience." And basically, like you say, that snowballed and turned into a job. And she got so busy that eventually we had to get a second camera, and this was sort of my sort of first forays into media photography. Not that I kept it up, but for a long time, for many years, I was her assistant photographer. So she would do all of the setup shots and get all the ones that she knew that they wanted, or the set pieces, and I would go around with the second camera and just get all the in the moment shots, which I love doing anyway. I didn't like doing all the setup stuff. I like the in the moment stuff. But I spent years being like the crowd wrangler. So you'll know this, that when you want to get everybody into a group for the group shot and everything, and no one's that people are drinking, they're off doing stuff. You're trying to, and I just basically took over the role of organizing people, because she's quite quietly spoke. No, she's not. She's quite a loud speaker, but she didn't have the confidence to sort of boss people around. Whereas I was like, right, I'll do this. It's fine, and find the nearest thing that you can stand on, and then shout at everybody like, get over there, and be really controlling, and get everybody into a group shot and everything. And for many years we did that, and I think it was only when kids came along and it seemed like it was a bit of an impossible task to keep asking for babysitters for us to go, because we were both doing it at that point. Go and get a babysitter to go out and be able to do weddings, and it's you know what it's like. It's a long day into it with photography. You're there from like the setup in the morning and everything. You're there into the evening and everything. So it's a bit of a stressful thing into to do that. But it's fair play. Like if that's your what do they say about the most stressful things you can do in life? Get married, or get divorced, move house, and change your job. So you're doing two of them.
Well, yeah, I know, and you know what? But it's really exciting as well at the same time. I've got a supportive partner, and that's where she lives in North Wales, and can't wait to get there. And I think some people, and I'm one of those where you just go through stints where you need a change. And I've been a teacher for 10 years at this school, and I love it, and I'm grateful that I've been there. It's been an amazing job, but also I think for personal self development, let's go and give something a go. It's always going to be there if you need it to come. Teaching's always for me. I can teach anywhere in the UK, and I will probably do some teaching in North Wales. I've already, attached to that. But my point is, sometimes you just got to give it a go. And teaching's hard, education is hard, and all my colleagues finding it hard as well. And yeah, I'm excited for that. And also the supply teaching will come in, so I can pick and choose when I need to go and do that. So yeah, no, super exciting. And yeah, there we go. Sometimes you just got to jump in on you and have a go. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you. What is it they say about regrets? You only regret what was it about the decisions you don't make, or chances you don't take.
live with
About
mistakes, you can't live with regrets.
Yeah, and you
Like
regret
that.
100% of I can't remember what it is. Something about 100% of the decisions you make or choices, something like that. I can't
Yeah,
remember what it is.
yeah.
But basically, yeah, you sometimes you just got, like you say, you've just got to like chuck yourself in with both feet and go for it. What's your so you've been able to, can you talk about some of the projects that you've worked on then with like brands and races and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. So I work with you got a good I think, well, like having a good relationship with people is part of the deal here. So a lot of people can take really good photos, far better than me. And but I think being someone reliable, a good communicator, understands it, and I think that's really helped me continue a great relationship with some of these companies, these trail companies. It was really good to be on part of the UTMB this year, UTS, well, about a month ago in North Wales. That was a great gig for me, and I think that'll move forward into the arc as well. So I've got a good relationship with them now. Numerous work with UltraX, who have races all over the world. So recently shot in Finland, and I've done work for them for a few years, on and off, depending on whether it conflicts with school. Trail Pursue, and I'm talking to a few other companies as well. But in the grand scheme of things, in terms of trail races, I've had to turn down a lot more than I've done because of school.
Yeah.
So it's having that, the more time you say no to certain companies, they'll just jump to somebody else. So it's a case of just making sure that I'm available to say yes to more, and that's opening back up. Brands. Indirectly with PR companies for outdoor brands with people, and then directly as well with a few like Bridgedale and Montaigne and companies like that recently. So yeah, no, it's great. It's very different because you're capturing emotions, you're using models there and saying we're going to use you in this spot, and it's a case of just having looking at the brief, talking to the people with from the brand and saying what we're trying to capture here, and it's usually a story behind what people are wearing or running in or hiking in, and yeah, just capturing a narrative with that. So that's good, and it's trying to create a story, tell a story through images that will then people relate to, and then hopefully click. Oh, I like that jacket, for example, or those shoes. So yeah, that's a really nice thing to do. I enjoy those, but I also enjoy the rawness of people, blood, sweat, and tears on races. That's great. And as a runner, I understand it, and I can run to certain places with my camera, light pack, and then off you go into certain spots. So I'm actually racing the Copper Sky race this weekend in North Wales, but I was asked by them to shoot it as well. And sometimes you've just got to say no. And actually, because I still love running, I could say yes to every race here to shoot, but actually I love running. So I said no, I'm not shooting that. I want to race it. So and I have experience doing both before, and it's just too much. You can't put your focus too much into, and I wanted to focus more. You want to focus on one or the other. So
Yeah, that's I know what you mean with that, because I at the weekend I went and did the spine sprint, and I saw loads of people that I see every year on the spine and everything, and like the spine family and the bubble and everything, and everyone was like, oh, so you racing and then you're doing media afterwards, and I was like, no, no, not this year, because I've done that the last couple of years, and I was like, no, I'm just being selfish this weekend. I'm just doing a race. And they're like,
yeah,
oh, I thought you'd be up at up at Kirk Yettam at the finish and stuff. And I was like, no, 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 I'm just having a little race. And then but I'll be back in winter though, definitely, to do media. So you've got to be careful, haven't you,
yeah,
with hobbies. That I think this was one of the things with my wife with photography, is that one of the reasons why she stopped because of kids, and then the other reason was that she found that she was starting to lose a passion a little bit for photography, because it became her job. And as much as she loved it, she kind of resented it, because the thing that she loved about photography was the art side of it, like you say. Like she's always been artistic. That was the thing that she loved about it, like creating a story and an
yeah,
image, and it became something mechanical to go and do weddings and things. So I think that's the sort of thing that put her off. And but then she is talking about sort of getting back into it again. Are you worried about that you've always had that separation with being a teacher, and then your photography has always been this other thing that you've gone to and you enjoy with your running and everything? Are you a bit worried that photography will become a job and you'll start to resent it a little bit. And I don't want to put that thought in your head if you haven't already thought
No.
it.
Well, it's a good question, and yeah, I've alluded to it already. And yes, I'm not worried about it, but I'm aware of it already, as in that that could happen. So I think having the awareness helps to start with for sure, and also making sure that I'm still in touch with the teaching side, the supply teaching side, which I told you about earlier, which I will be doing.
Mm.
But I also think the type of jobs that I will be pushing for as well will give that it's going to be fun. It's going to be adventurous. If I was a full-time wedding photographer, I think I'd hate it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I don't want to be, I also shoot food in restaurants as well. So I'm doing a bit of everything, and that mixing it up completely all the time just really makes it fascinating for me and interesting. So weddings, families, pets, trail running, races, food photography, and you could argue, and some people might be listening, going, "Well, why don't you just concentrate on one and being that good in one?" But I think that helps with keeping your creative side. It helps you keep it interesting, and I'm happy with that at the moment. So yeah. I guess that's it. It's just I think it's just being aware, I guess, and making sure that you're in touch with that.
Yeah, that you keep that creative side, and
Yeah.
I suppose actually the massive benefit that you're going to get by doing less teaching is that you're going to have all these opportunities to go and do all the things that you could never have done before because your teaching was sort of
Yeah.
holding you back from doing that. So the experiences that you're going to be able to have now are going to be like tenfold, aren't they?
Fingers crossed. That's what I'm hoping for, and I think I I know that the time gives you more opportunity, and it's like, well, then you've got time to then open up these doors yourself as well. So it's a case of then talking and with those relationships you've already got and saying, hey, yeah, I'm available for that, or can that what we spoke about before. Yeah, that helps. One thing I will say, if anyone's listening or is doing a similar thing, and I think opportunistic photography is really key. So when I saw you on the spine in the winter, for example,
Mm.
I wasn't, and I've been out tonight shooting a road race. No one's asked me to be there. I just went there because I love it. So I loved capturing still races when I'm not invited. I love capturing interesting events when I'm not invited,
Mm.
uh, because no one can stop you taking a photo, and then I'll
Yes.
share that. And yeah, you can tag people in it, and like I sent you those images,
Yeah.
and I was nothing to do with the company or the race. I was just there because I was pretty close by, and for me, and well done on your recent spine, last week as well, this weekend just gone as well. But the far more interesting shots for me are when you got snow and ice dropping off your face in the middle of winter, horrendous. But that was that, those sort of, those sort of images create this like just this sort of mysterious. How are they feeling? What are the pain are they going through? What are they thinking? And yeah, going back to that opportunistic photography, massive. I was in UTMB last year, paid as a fan to go, took my camera, and before you know it, I've wormed myself into the finish line.
Mm.
And I'm shooting John Alban, who's just finished the race. I've not even got a pass round my neck, but I got in there because I got a long lens and an Apple Mac. Look busy. I look busy, and I look like I should have been there, and I was
Yeah.
there. And sometimes you've just got to have a little bit of a bit of a knack at just getting into the right places without, and that's helped.
Mm.
That's I then shared an image to Matthew Blanchard, and he shared it, and it helped one of my images go massive. So opportunistic
Yeah.
photography is massive as well, especially in a world full of media and people want images, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and just on that point, I was going to bring that up. That seeing you just before Snake Pass, you were there, weren't you? There was another guy there as well. Then what was it? I can't remember his name. Another well-known photographer.
Jamie Rutherford. Jamie Rutherford.
Yeah, no, he's on the team. He's on the media team.
Oh,
There was somebody else. I can't remember his name now. Apologies if he's listening. I've spoken to him a couple of times. I can't remember his name now. But he sort of followed the race all the way. He wasn't on the media team at all, and he sort of followed the race and took photos. Um, and Will, who runs the media team for the Spine, got in touch with me and he was like, "Do you know who he is?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know who he is." He he sort of trying to get hold of him to tell him to sort of stay away from the race, and he was like, "No, it's great, you know, that he's there. If he told us he was coming, we could have sort of accommodated him a bit better. But there's no reason, you know, it's a free country. You can take photos wherever you like, and but if you want to if people want to contribute, then they're more than happy to sort of take that on board. So that was what I was going to say to you is, you know, if you if you've got your heart set on going and shooting the Spine, there's I know that for a fact that will have been more than happy to sort of take images from you completely,
Mhm.
because he only has a small budget for the media team, and basically that's how, like you say about being opportunistic, taking these opportunities. That's how I got involved with the media team, because I just said to Will, I was like, you know, I'd sort of met him through the race.
Yeah.
We talked about podcasts and about doing bits of media and stuff. And I said, right, I've got a van. I can take the week off work. I don't want to be paid. I'll literally come to the race. I'll do whatever you want me to do on the media team. I'll help people. I'll carry equipment. I'll do whatever. I'll shoot bits of video if you'll let me do that. And it was like, right, okay, can't say fairer than that. If someone's there and they're willing to help out off their own back, then why would you turn somebody away? You wouldn't, would you?
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, um, yeah, and it helps, doesn't it? Because even though you might not, it'll just help improve you in some capacity. Well, not only do you love it, but also it helps you improve your skills. As a journalist, or in the media world, or taking photos. Because and that just shows, doesn't it? Goodwill. I think goodwill in the running community will never die. And I think the running, as the running community is full of great people.
You raised a good point actually, that it's all about communication and relationships as well. I found that you know that sort of coming into like the podcasting world and stuff, and bits of media and everything, and I realized that I'm quite good at, like you, quite good at blagging stuff and just sort of throwing yourself into a situation that you kind of give people, you don't really give people the choice, like to accept it or not. And all the sort of connections that I've made through races and stuff,
Mm.
and sort of getting hold of people to come on the podcast and stuff, and just sort of saying, you know, I've worked on the Spy Media team, and just using a little blag in one direction and a blag in the other direction, and you can sort of convince somebody that you that you're actually better than you are. And you can get, but that's how you get your foot in the door, and that's how you then, like you say, improve your skills. Because you've
Yeah,
got to start somewhere, haven't you? You can't,
yeah,
nobody like turns up as a fully fledged like trail running photographer,
yeah,
or videographer. You just have to get a foot in the door and start building your skills, and that's how
yeah.
you do it.
Yeah, and it's that fine line of arrogance, isn't it? And knowing that you're good at it, and you still want to, when you want to get and do a good job, and you say, I'm the man for this, I'm the woman for this, I can do this job. But if you have my partner, she'll tell you that I'm forever saying, oh, I can do better at this, I'm not quite good enough at that, and that imposter syndrome does kick in. But I also think it's just getting the right balance, really.
That's
And
good. That's also a good quality to have, though, isn't it? To be humble
yeah,
in the things that you do, because that'll always keep you sort of checking yourself and making sure that you are doing your best with stuff. If you're constantly, you know, a little bit of self-doubt is good, because it'll sort of keep you in check. And if you have such a big ego about yourself that, you know, oh, you know, I'm the best, I can do this, I can do
yeah,
that, then you'll sort of fall into the trap of making mistakes, and people don't particularly generally like you for that kind of thing, do they? I know, with this Jasmine Paris film that I made, I was paranoid about sort of editing it, because I've only got limited sort of editing experience. I've done little bits of films for races before, but never sort of put a project in front of myself where I was like, I've got all this amazing footage, don't mess it up. And I kind of cobbled it all together, and I was kind of happy with it. And then I just sent it out to a few people, thinking and said, "Tell me what you think. Tell me what I need to change." And I was amazed that like 90% of it of people were just like, "Don't change anything. That's it. Just put it out as it is." And I was like, "Yeah, but what about this bit? I don't like this bit and that bit." And they're like, "That's you. Only you can see that. Don't worry about it. Just put it out." So sometimes you got to, yeah, having a bit of humility is good, isn't it? And self-confidence is good, but relying on other people's opinions is pretty good
Yeah,
as well, isn't it?
yeah, completely. Yeah, you're completely right. And we're good at procrastinating, aren't we? That's praise.